Hey guys, Joe Tunney here at Infiniti of Kirkland in Kirkland, Washington, just outside of Seattle. And look what we have here. We've just taken in trade a 2003 Audi RS6 Quattro all-wheel drive, one of 860 brought to the United States. And I'm sure with the enormous power and potential of a car like this, there are probably far fewer than 860 on the road today. An expensive vehicle new, certainly an expensive vehicle pre-owned. This particular car has receipts totaling over $30,000 in about the last 30,000 miles. So it's definitely an expensive car to own, but perhaps there's some value in that. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But the car itself is absolutely amazing. All RS6s are amazing. This one's quite nice for a representative example, but RS6s are definitely in a class by themselves. The performance on these is just absolutely blow you back in your chair type of performance. 450 horsepower, 415 foot-pounds of torque. I've seen 413 foot-pounds of torque mentioned as well, but definitely over 400 foot-pounds of torque. And then that torque is applied from about 1950 RPM, and it's that same 400 plus foot-pounds of torque well over 5,500 RPM. So unlike a lot of turbocharged engines, and this one is a twin turbocharged engine, it doesn't have that kind of peaky type of turbo lag type of performance. In fact, it has probably as amazing of a performance of an automatic transmission car as you'll ever drive, even compared to brand new cars. And I know we're kind of in a horsepower war now, and there's a lot of high horsepower cars out there, but this car is just flat out dynamite fast in a way we haven't seen since late 60s muscle cars. This is an absolutely breathtaking car to drive. And then the suspension is such on this vehicle that it's actually amazingly refined on the road, even under full throttle, even around turns, even at very, very high speeds. It's one of the easiest cars to drive fast that you'll ever drive in your entire life. I want to pop the hood and we'll take a look underneath. Let's take a look at the business end of the RS6. Audi's V8 engine with twin turbos, bi-turbo as mentioned here on the carbon fiber cover. You have twin air-to-air intercoolers, so a little bit different front fascia to accommodate those air-to-air intercoolers over a conventional Audi A6. In fact, in many ways, this just looks like an Audi A6, and then you pop the hood and it's, oh my God, this car is unbelievable. Batteries relocated to the back in the trunk area, and this is all business under the hood. And so again, 450 horsepower with Quattro all-wheel drive. Now, this car is actually built by Quattro, and so Quattro means all-wheel drive. We all know that as far as Audi goes, but there's a division within Audi called Quattro, and as of 2003 they had built a few cars, the RS2, the RS4, and this RS6. The RS6 was the only one that was exported to the United States, and again, only 860 of them brought over here, and certainly far fewer remain. Also, just quickly, because this is kind of it's not kind of a collector's car, it's definitely a collector's car, we want to take a little longer look at a couple of things. Obviously, Carfax, everybody knows Carfax, and they know that it's easy to kind of steer around Carfax and have an accident car if you pay for it privately and that work not show up on the Carfax. So we're going to take a peek at all the screws that hold this front section together, the hood and whatnot. Everything's completely original, untouched, unscratched, unblemished, and so on a car like this, if it's been in an accident, that's certainly something you're going to want to know. This one looks just as it did when it was new. Come take a look around the side. Now, the brakes on the RS6 are different than any other Audi. They're amazing. They're amazingly expensive as well. We've just replaced them, and they're a little over $3,000 to do a brake job on this car. The brakes are huge. They're 14.4-inch rotors in the front and 13.2-inch rotors in the back. And then the actual friction plate, the actual circular part of the rotor, is different on RS6s than pretty much anything I've ever heard of. It's held together by this aluminum hub in the center by 14 pins around the outside edge of the inner hub. And so those pins allow for about 1 millimeter of play, both left and right. And so when you're going extremely fast, and I mean this car will do 175 miles an hour, no problem. And so some school buses switches into your lane and you need to slam on the brakes for all she's worth. what happens is this rotor actually has some play in it to give maximum connection to the pad, so that the pad is always in the most ideal place to give the absolute fastest braking times and the absolute fastest response times imaginable. And so the braking on this car from speed just will blow your mind. I mean, it's the feel of it doesn't feel like you're doing too much. I mean, the feel's soft, like a Chevy Malibu or something like that. But the response time is like, you just can't even believe. You've never been in a car that stops as fast as this car from really high speeds. It's one of a kind, but it's also very expensive to replace. And so it's just something you need to know, not just on this RS6, but when you're looking at any RS6, they cost money. That's the real world. This one's set up, nice colors, nice tinted windows. Taking a look at the interior. Interior looks fantastic. Great color combination. RS6 pretty much stock. I mean, it looks like every other Audi on the inside, other than, you know, the special nature of the seats. They're not really particularly different than the factory seats, other than the RS6 stitching and the unique look of them. But they're soft, they're normal. It's kind of a daily driver car. The carbon fiber, you had your choice back then if you wanted carbon fiber or wood, and so the first owner of this car decided on the carbon fiber. And if you looked at these enough, sometimes this carbon fiber will crack, or especially on the dash area, the carbon fiber will crack, and it's not cracked at all on this. And then the steering wheel, you'll see a lot of wear on the steering wheel. This doesn't have any wear on the steering wheel. However, if you can see up close, there is some fade right here, where the black has been faded to white just from your hand turning on the headlamps there, and that's just the real world with Audis. But the seats themselves look fantastic. Back seat, it's obviously a family-friendly car, but this clearly was not a family car. It does have heated seats in the back as well, but it's apparent that the back seats have probably never been used, or very seldomly been used. It's in wonderful condition. In fact, the interior overall is in amazing condition for a 90-odd thousand mile car, but particularly the back seat. Spoiler, it's a distinctive look for the RS6. Obvious reasons for a high-speed car why you need a rear spoiler. And then the rear end of this car is just a little bit different than your standard, and then of course it's because it has the big twin outlet exhaust. A little bit of scratches here, I mean, not the end of the world. We haven't done as far as we've completely reconditioned the car, but as far as like paintwork and stuff like that, we're going to leave it up to the next owner what they want to do. Not everybody likes the idea of getting their car painted on, and so we'll leave that to the next owner to decide. Now, the suspension is also really neat on these RS6s and different than anything else that you'll see. The suspension itself is how it works is there's a central valve, central reservoir for the shocks. And so the shocks, as they build up pressure, say I'm taking a really fast turn, 100 miles an hour, making a really sharp sweeping turn, obviously this car is going to push down hard to the direction against where I'm turning. And so what happens is the fluid inside of that shock releases into a central reservoir and then fills up an opposing shock, so that the opposing shock is building up at the same rate as the shock that's taking on all that wear is yielding all of its fluid. And so the car is enormously compliant at high speeds. In fact, you can take turns faster than you've ever taken anything in your life, and the car stays flat out flat. It just does. And so everybody's kind of experimented over the years with different kind of electronic suspension setups, and this one isn't electronic at all. It's just a hydraulic setup that allows fluid to come out of one place and go into the other. And so although mechanical, it's not electric. And so I haven't heard too much about people having problems with it, but just take my word for it. If you haven't driven one of these, or take your own word for it and come in here and drive this car, it's one of the most different handling cars at high speed that you've ever driven, because it just stays so flat no matter how fast you're going and how sharp the turn is. It's really cool. Come take a look inside. Alcantara headliner. You have side airbags, front airbags, and head airbags in the center here. But more importantly, let's turn it on. Let's see what this car sounds like. It sounds great. And so the only three options really on these RS6s is the number one. Turn the HVAC down. Number one, did you want to go with wood or carbon fiber? And this owner went with carbon fiber. Also navigation, and this car has navigation. The one option it doesn't have is the rear airbags, and that was the third option available in RS6s. But they all come with an entirely aluminum suspension. They all come with that Yamaha design shock setup. They all come with the same 450 horsepower twin turbo motor. They all are amazing. Now, getting back to the part where $30,000 has been invested in this car, yes, that's a real concern. I mean, if you're going to make this your daily driver and you're looking at this car going, my God, this car is faster than most Ferraris back in 2003. I could own something that's really amazing and special, and my friends will be blown away. And I have one of only a handful of hundreds available, probably in all of North America. And wow, won't this be an impressive way to show up? And yes, all of that is true. It's just, you got to remember, the previous owner spent $30,000 on this car in the past 30 or so thousand miles. And so for you need to know exactly what it is that you're doing. The transmission's been replaced in this car. Timing belt's been done twice, actually, because that's the real world. The timing belts get replaced more regularly in these cars. Again, the brakes are really expensive. Cam position sensors and seals and what have you. The differentials, all this stuff's been done. But going forward, you're going to need to address that in your own mind. I mean, I'm owning $85,000 merchandise for around $25,000, but it does come at a cost. Now, the benefit is, if you're looking at this as more of a collector's car, that prohibitive expense for most buyers is going to mean that more and more of these are going to come off of the road as the miles, 130, 140, 150,000 miles. People are going to say, man, I'm buying the car for $17,000, $18,000, $19,000. That's my budget, but I can't afford to fix it. And so you're going to see fewer and fewer and fewer of these RS6s as the years go by, until there comes a time when there's virtually none to be had. And that time might be now. I mean, there's very, very few RS6s ever available on the market in the United States, but that number is getting smaller and smaller with each succeeding year. So for somebody looking for this as a collector's type of car, although the miles are higher than you'd like to see in collector quality, obviously like something 10, 20, 30,000 miles, still you have something that cannot be reproduced. It's probably the absolute peak of this generation of cars, quattro all-wheel drive and power that just absolutely blows you away. This is one of the single coolest cars you could ever hope to own in this price range, and it is in fabulous condition. I mean, this is a really, really nice car that the previous owner had a bumper-to-bumper service contract on, so almost all of this expensive stuff was taken care of under warranty, and so they went ahead and did everything. So for you get the benefit of a car that, instead of just being right on the precipice of a bunch of expensive repair, is on the other side of that. A neat car, an amazing opportunity for the right buyer. And if you're that right buyer, please don't hesitate to give me a call. My name is Joe Tunney here at Infiniti of Kirkland. You can reach me on my cell phone, 425-894-8230, or just drop me an email anytime. Joe T at infinitiofkirkland.com.